Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Real View podcast. I'm your host, Allison Wiley. With me today are two very special guests, Seth Task, who is our Ohio Realtors president this year in 2021, and Tim Kokenauer, who is the chair of 2021 Convention Committee. Thanks, guys, for being here with me today.
Hi, Allison.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, we are excited to kind of give you guys a preview, a first look, if you will, in what to expect at our 2021 convention that is coming up in September. It is September 27th through 29th at the Easton Hotel in Columbus, Ohio. So we're really excited about this convention after we had to be only virtual last year because of the pandemic, but we are happy to be in person. We are back. And before we get started on everything that you can expect at convention, I want to kick today's episode off with asking our signature question, which is, what is the best view that you have ever seen? And I know, Seth, you have been on our podcast as a guest before, but it's been a little while. So for any of our newer listeners, will you let them know the best view you ever had? And then, Tim, if you want to follow up after Seth, that would be awesome.
Since I had already given a best view before, which was sort of like a world view, which was the Grand Canyon, I'm going to give you my best new view, which is my new office view here in downtown Cleveland. Woo, woo.
That's really awesome.
Progressive Field. I can see home plate from my desk. So I'm very excited about my new office.
That's very cool. I'm sure for those matinee games, you'll have a nice view, be able to peek over, maybe see some of the action, what's happening in some of those afternoon games. So very cool. Thank you, Seth. Thanks for sharing.
Might go on the roof.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can top that. Okay, so been thinking about it here just for a couple minutes. So I think the coolest view, I maybe have two. So I was skiing a few years ago in Colorado and went to Arapahoe Basin, which is, I think it's the highest lift serviceable ski area. It's like 14 or 15,000 square feet, feet high above sea level. So there's a place there you pop off your skis and walk down a little hill and walk back another hill at 15,000 feet, like no oxygen. But you walk down this little path and walk back up, and you can see Vail, Keystone, Breckenridge. You can see all the ski resorts from this one spot.
Wow. So beautiful.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
you a big skier?
I used to be.
Yeah.
I used to ski a lot, but not so much.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing both of those very cool views. So I want to know, I'm just curious from the both of you, how did you get started in your careers in real estate? How did you get started at your associations, local, state? What was that process like for you guys? And how did you get involved in planning, this huge event that's a convention? Tell us a little bit about your background. Tim, why don't you kick us off?
So I've been doing this a really long time. So my first convention, I can't remember if it was like Cleveland or maybe Dayton, because we used to go to Dayton, Toledo, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus. But I met some of the OAR staff like at the first couple conventions, and they were like, you should be on a committee. You should do this and that. And I think I was on the scholarship committee in many, many years ago. That was, I think, the first committee that I was on and chaired. And I've chaired it 3 times, by the way, too. So,
oh my gosh.
And it involved ever since. It just kind of got the itch, and somebody asked me to participate and said, all right, I'll be on a committee. Sure. And I didn't know what I was doing, but it all worked out.
So you are a veteran at this, you should say. This is not your rookie year.
Tell them how many. Tell them how many, Tim.
I've only missed one convention in my career.
Wow.
So this will be my 38th, I think, convention.
That's awesome.
I think.
You don't look a day over 39. I don't know.
Thank you.
That's very true. That's very. Do you have a favorite convention or one that stuck out to you?
Ooh. I don't know. The last one in Cincinnati was our last live event. I mean, because it was been so long ago. I think but no, they've all been memorable in certain ways. So hoping that this convention can live up to that challenge of being the greatest convention.
Well, I think it will because it's coming off of a COVID year. We were all at home last year. And I know for most of us, we haven't been to a convention, post COVID. I know I was at the Easton Hilton just last week filming some promo video up there. And there was actually a convention there going on. And I was like, this is so awesome to see conventions again and things starting to, be normal and be how they were pre-COVID. So it was very exciting. So I think that's definitely what this year has in store for us is just that opportunity coming off COVID to all come together again. So Seth, what about you? How did you get involved? Especially how did you get involved in planning a convention?
I got involved originally because I was complaining about an MLS issue, I think, years and years ago, 16 years ago or 15, I don't know, 12 years. I don't know how long ago at this point, but the president of at that time, KBOR, Cleveland Area Board of Realtors, said, well, here's somebody who is willing to speak up. And so she tapped me on the shoulder and said, we had to start these things called YPN chapters. And so she said, I'm going to appoint you to this and I need you to accept it. We had just done a deal together and we had a good time doing that. And I was like, okay, well, how much time is that going to take? And she's like, I don't know. I just need you to do it. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. I walked into that meeting and there was only a couple staff people and we didn't have any group. So it was like, how do you want to do this? I said, well, I don't have time for this. So this is going to be a benevolent dictatorship. That's how this will go. But it was sort of fun from there. I brought 5 people on. I told each of those 5 people to tap somebody at the next meeting. And then those 10 each picked one more person. And we had an advisory group of 20 people and had 100% attendance for about a year and a half. And we were off to the races. From there, I was asked to go to Chicago for the leadership summit that they have that president-elects and AEs go to each year. And it was the first time that the YPN chairs around the country were sent there. And when I went there, my eyes were wide open to the world of what being a realtor is all about. And I know a lot of people, just sort of the average member doesn't necessarily know how much the realtors associations do, both on an advocacy level and a service to the membership and communities and such. But it's massive. And I saw that whole world open up and, I was all in from then. But how did I get to plan this convention? Well, funny thing is that when you are elected president or treasurer, which eventually becomes president, well, you don't really have a choice. So no, but I'm very excited. Tim, I appointed Tim as the chair of this committee. I have been a friend of Tim's ever since I've been going to Ohio Realtors conferences. And I know that Tim is the kind of guy who pulls out all the stops to create a fun time for everyone and a collaborative time and an educational time. And I think he and our committee have knocked it out of the park. Very excited to be president coming out of COVID after we've had such a tough time the last year and a half. But I assure you that this being most people's first conference post-COVID, they will not be disappointed.
No, and they won't. And we have so much awesome things lined up and networking and, an opportunity to get together and be together. There's not many chances, from a state standpoint that realtors can come together from across Ohio and spend time together, get to know one another. We were just talking on another episode about the importance of mentorship and the importance of connecting with your colleagues and, having that support, especially when we're all dealing with these crazy times as far as the market goes. So really exciting. Lots of great things going on. So let's talk about some of the cool things that we have planned at convention. Like we said, it is September 27th through 29th in Columbus at the Hilton at Easton, which is a super cool location about 15 minutes outside of downtown Columbus. Really cool area. It's growing. And we're actually going to hear from some of the developers who planned Easton at convention, which is going to be really cool. They're going to be able to talk about the project there at Easton and how it's just continuing to evolve. I know I was there a couple of weeks ago and there's just new stuff popping up all over the place. You miss Easton, you don't go there in a month and it looks totally different. And there's 5 new restaurants and 5 new bars and 5 new shops that have opened up. So it's just crazy, the growth there. So tell us a little bit about, the background of how do you plan a convention? How did you pick the location? Tell us a little bit about the background and what goes into planning such a large event that has so many attendees.
So I think some of the locations were picked like in advance over the years to secure the hotels and the convention space. So some of that has been the previous administrations, Seth, even before Seth, those locations were decided. But I want to give some kudos to, it's not just me. I've got 15 people on my committee that we've met at least once a month virtually. We've met in person maybe 3 or 4 times at Easton just checking out spaces, but it's not just me. There's all these decisions have been a collaborative to get to this point. The keynote speakers, the CEs, there were a lot of meetings to pick the keynote speaker. It's a lot of thought went into, is this the right person for our group? And are these the right CE leaders for our group? So it's not just me. There's a convention full of people and There's a whole committee.
There will be.
There and staff too. I mean, without staff, they make it all happen. So they just make us look good. So kudos to staff and to my convention committee as well.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I mean, Gary Moon, who does an amazing job with our educational programming, obviously Jenna Bragg and Stacy Dawson, who sort of house that convention department. They work nonstop on our programming. I think that we have to book hotels 2-3 years in advance sometimes, to Tim's point. So sometimes we've already have like next year's conventions already booked, so that we don't miss a space that has the right amount of occupancy for us, especially now we didn't know what kind of guidelines we needed for social distancing. So we picked Easton because of its spatial possibilities for us, and of course its availability. But to your point earlier, Alison, Easton is such an amazing development. I mean, if you've been around this country, Easton is honestly, it's a model. It's a revolutionary development. Tim was extremely excited for this programming, especially for our commercial agents and brokers, to be able to present how Easton has become such a world-class development. And there's so many different great places to go and see and hang out. If you're just if you happen to want to go to dinner somewhere or have a drink somewhere, after the programming, so many places to do that within walking distance, or very, very short Uber drive or Lyft drive. So we're really excited about, going back to Easton.
This episode of The Real View is brought to you by the Ohio Association of Community Colleges. Ohio's network of community colleges provides accessible training that accommodates the busy lifestyles of aspiring real estate professionals at half the price of a traditional university. With convenient locations in every part of the state, as well as online options, Ohio's community colleges are your smart choice for pre-licensing education. For more details or to start the journey to a real estate career, visit the education page at ohiorealtors.org and then click on the pre-license course locations. Yeah, definitely. And if nothing else, come to check out Easton. Come to see some of the cool bars and restaurants that are there and some of the new shops. It looks great, honestly. Like I said, I was there a couple weeks ago and there just last week doing some promo stuff, and it looks awesome. So if nothing else, come check out Easton. It is a super cool location, different than being in downtown Columbus. So you get to see a different area of the city, switch that up a little bit. So yeah, come check out Easton. So aside from, the location, tell us a little bit more about some of the other features and things that we have planned. What can our Ohio Realtors members expect and be excited about for this year's convention?
Tons of CE. I think we have 19 hours of on-site CE. There is also a virtual option. Our members have asked for that. And so we will be giving a virtual option for, I think, about 2/3 of the programming. But, listen, we're allowed to be in person. I honestly, having these events in person and collaborating, having fun, learning all day, having fun at night is just part of this whole thing. We have some really great speakers and some great programs, but diversity, equity, and inclusion is one of my initiatives this year. Harold Beecher is one of the greatest guys in the country speaking on the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sustainability is another one of our initiatives this year, and we have some great programming in relation to energy efficiency, some great panel discussions. and tons of other great speakers. I'm going to leave it to Tim to talk about some of the other speakers because they worked so hard to put together such a rock star lineup. Tim, why don't you take it from there?
So our committee talked, there were many, many discussions about the keynote speaker, and we really came down to, we wanted somebody that can relate to our business, not just a motivational speaker, like can tell you how great everything's you can be or whatever. Some of that gets lost, I think. People are like, well, what's that have to do with me? And how's that relate to our business? But Joe Gerstrand is our keynote speaker. He's in our business, but he talks about diversity and inclusion, but he's a pretty dynamic guy and knows our business. So I think this could really be relatable to, and we looked, Seth, I don't know how many we looked at. You looked at quite a few too. We must have looked at 20 or 30, easily 20, and, watching videos and like, okay. And how does it really relate? They were good. I mean, there were a lot of good people, but what's it have to do with us? So we wanted it to be focused on something for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can read more about Joe on our website. We have a list of all of the speakers and their bios on our website. So if you want to learn more about any of the individuals that will be presenting or speaking at our convention, they're all on the website. And I was just reading Joe's little write-up on the website as you were talking here. And yeah, he seems like a very cool, a very accomplished guy, has a great perspective, I think, on diversity and inclusion, and is probably going to bring some aha moments to that opening keynote session. So really excited about having him there as well. And I know some of the other individuals you can expect to hear from, some of our favorite Ohio Realtors staff. I know you're going to get an awesome legislative update from our staff at Ohio Realtors, who will kind of give you the download or the lowdown download on what's going on in the legislative realm. I know we just had a budget passed at the State House, so I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff there, a lot of stuff happening on the local level too. So that's going to be an awesome topic, as well as hearing from our legal ladies, Lori Garland and Peg Rattenauer. I know they are always a fan favorite. So hearing from them too, from the Ohio Realtor staff. What are some other speakers on a national level that we can be excited? I know you mentioned Harrison Beecher, and yeah, what are some other national speakers? I mean, these are some pretty big names that we have coming out to be in person with us, which is exciting. Can you tell us about any others that are going to be joining us for this convention?
Just right off the bat, I can think of what we have: two local Central Ohio speakers, Katie McCartney, I'm not sure what she's doing, and Sean Carpenter are both speaking. They're both Columbus Realtors. They're great speakers, known around the country. Sorry, I can't think of our national speakers in a minute. Maybe Seth can.
Like I said, Harrison's fantastic. I mean, he's a good friend of mine, as well as a fantastic speaker. A lot of people have seen him on some Clubhouse channels on the topic of diversity. Tim, why don't you talk a little bit about our global program and the speakers that are coming?
I am super excited about our commercial global reception. And I like to think of it as not just for commercial people. So we have coming with us Jonathan Shimmerin. He's the senior VP of the Georgetown Company, and they were the major developer and owners of Easton and other locations across the country. They're in New York City. He's excited about coming to Columbus. I'm sure he comes here a lot, but he's excited about coming to Columbus to talk to us. But I think there's more just for a lot of the commercial events we've had over the years. We've had to go off site. They've had to get in a bus and go somewhere, or it was on site and you heard from the CI chair about something. I'm pretty excited that we have somebody that's going to come in and talk about something as huge as Easton, but we've got the senior VP of the company coming from New York. But I think there's some interest from some residential people too that should come to hear this. They've gotten some tax credits from the city of Columbus to develop, but leading our panel is also Columbus City Councilman and Realtor Emmanuel Remy is going to be semi-moderating and leading that discussion of how Easton got to where it is and working with the city of Columbus. So I think there should be some interest. I want all our commercial people to come to a live convention, because this is going to be like a really cool. So our location is, I can't really talk about it yet, but it's going to be really cool. The location where we're going to be, it's very walkable. it's pretty exciting. I think the commercial people, if you've been thinking about coming before, you should come to this convention because there's going to be something for you. But I'm going to encourage our residential people to say, come to this to hear about some things, really cool that's happening at Easton and how they've done so well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating, and I'm not a realtor. I just, work for the association, but I think it's fascinating. And I'm like, that's actually really cool. I want to hear about how they did all this and how this happened. So as me, someone who's outside the industry, I think it's awesome. And I'm excited personally to hear from them and listen to it. So yeah, for sure.
There were malls across the country that didn't do well during COVID, and they exceeded all their expectations. And yeah, they limited their hours and things, but they were going full bore. And so it's great to hear from them. So I'm pretty excited for not only our commercial people, but our residential people. And you don't have to walk very far. And the little clue I can tell you is if you go to the commercial event, you're only going to be steps away from the YPN/RPAC event.
That'll be an amazing event. I mean, our RPAC party is always a great party. The YPN RPAC party. It's always on our Monday night, and it's always, a great event. And it will once again be an amazing event. It's at, we can announce where that's at, right?
Yes.
That's at Pins Mechanical. Now, if you've been to Pins event before, which we've had in Columbus before, it's not the same Pins. They have moved to a different location, which is literally steps from the hotel. And it's fantastic. It's huge. And we've booked the entire second floor, which is massive. So it's going to be an amazing event. It'll be fun. There'll be food and drink and bowling and other games and what have you. So major investors for our RPAC will also have their own little separate bar so that they can get drinks faster. But we'll have plenty of bartenders though. And then, of course, listen, really excited to have President Sales Club again. I as the president, I'm excited to award our President Sales Club winners. They missed out last year, and it's always a fun time. It's always a big shebang, and we're going to have a great party for the President Sales Club. So that'll be fun too.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, if you need any more reason to get registered for this convention, I don't know what else will get you there, because there's a lot of awesome stuff happening, a lot of time and effort. Years of planning, as we mentioned earlier, have gone into making this event a reality, in-person and virtual options. So certainly, if you're not comfortable being around crowds again, check out our hybrid option. You can still get a lot of those core sessions and things like that streamed wherever you are, but try to join us in person. It's going to be an awesome time to be around fellow realtors again and experience Easton, which is such a cool place. So 19 hours of CE credit, national speakers, the RPAC event, a special commercial presentation about Easton. So many reasons to join. Join us. You'll be able to see all of us there in person. Tim, Seth, myself, other Ohio Realtors staff and members from across the state will be there. So get registered now. Go to our website, ohiorealtors.org/convention. There you will find the registration information, hotel information. You can read more about the speakers, see the full agenda. Check it all out on our website, but get registered. Join us. We cannot wait to see you in person in September. It's going to be a great event. So Seth and Tim, thank you for all of your work. Thank you guys for joining me today. Is there any last words you want to say to our members to encourage them to join us at convention?
Sign up now.
There you go.
Be there or be square.
There you go. It's going to be an awesome event. So thank you guys for joining me today. To our listeners, thank you guys as always for tuning in. We will see you next week, and we will hopefully see you at convention. ohiorealtors.org/convention will get you all of that information to sign up. So thanks, guys, and we will see you next week.
Sign up today.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.